Welcome to Amplifying Leadership, a place where we talk with guests on their leadership journeys and hear about what they think is key to becoming a great leader. My name is Tara Lehman, and I'm a partner, coach, and consultant at Twin Life Coaching and Business Services, of which Amplifying Leadership is a division. For our leadership clients, we support you through this podcast and various leadership growth services. To learn more about our Amplifying Leadership division, please visit us at amplifyingleadership.ca. Today, I am welcoming Ken Rusk, a best-selling author, entrepreneur, and blue-collar advocate, showing there's no degree required for comfort, peace, and freedom. Welcome to the show.
Thanks. I appreciate it, Tara. Thanks for having me.
Of course. So I like to start all of my episodes with knowing a little bit about your leadership story for our audience. So why don't you share a bit with that today?
Well, it kind of started when I was very young. I was, four brothers, my mom and dad living in a very small house on the South Shore of Lake Erie. And we were always one of those families of kind of doers. We knew that we didn't have a lot of money. My father, again, he had 5 boys under the age of 9. And
wow.
So
busy.
Him and my mother could provide a great life for us. So we didn't know that we didn't have a lot of money. And that's, I think, the best part about growing up like that is you don't really know. And so if I wanted something more than they could provide, I had to go out and try to find a way to trade labor for it, which is basically what we did.
Wow.
I wanted a new aluminum baseball bat so I could play baseball, and $40. Okay, I need to work 13 hours at $3 an hour and I'll get it. You know what I mean? It was just simple math for me.
Yeah.
And we did a lot of that. So when I was in high school, I wanted to get my first real full-time job. And it was a situation where our high school shared a fence with an industrial park. Lots of businesses in there, lots of energy, lots of things going on. And we used to cut through a hole in that fence after school to go hang out at the carryout. And one day I thought, I'm gonna stop in one of these places and see what they do. I knew someone that had worked there, and so basically they were ditch diggers. And I said, well, I think I'm wholly qualified to do that. So I basically signed up to dig ditches when I was 15, did that in the summertime, worked in the office in the wintertime after school. And it was because of that, Tara, that I learned the front and the back of the house and created this knowledge and this awareness of how this business ran. So when it came time to open franchises, or when it came time for me to go to college at 18, they came to me and said, we're opening franchises and we want you to help us do that. So I literally hobbled together a suit in a suitcase, and I went to Columbus and Cincinnati and Pittsburgh and Chicago and opened these companies from scratch. So it was kind of a way to learn, how to do a startup over and over and over again.
Wow.
And so when it came time for me to do my own thing, I moved, I was tired of living out of that suitcase anymore. And I moved to Toledo, Ohio, Northwest Ohio, opened up a business for 6 people. I think we have 220 today, and it's been a heck of a ride.
Yeah. And your story is interesting because a lot of people tell me that they've started young and either out of necessity, such as yourself with having to barter, or just because that's where life led them and it just is who they are. So I love that you talk about taking that initiative when we're younger. So if we think about some of those people, maybe they're not leaders yet, but they want to be. And, how can they start to show that initiative? What are some of your ideas that they could, kind of like what you did when you were very young, and then they picked up on that and they wanted you to help open? What are some of the tips you might have for those people?
Well, I would say this: if you're going to do anything in life, I don't care whether you're driving to the store or you're going to make a cake or you're going to build something, you always start out with what the end game looks like. Always. I want to build this chocolate cake. I know it's going to look like this when I'm done. I'm going to put candles on it, someone's birthday, whatever. So I would say this: what you won't learn in high school, what you won't learn in college, you certainly won't learn in most familial settings, is how to be extremely visual, how to look forward and see what you want your life to look like. We all know our favorite cookies, and we know our favorite colors, and we know our favorite drinks, and we know our favorite everything, but we kind of stop at that. We don't go further to what would my favorite house look like? What would my favorite car look like? Car, pickup
Mm-hmm.
truck, van. What would my favorite vacation be? Mountains, beach. What would my favorite sport be? Hobbies. What would my favorite generosity moment look like? What
Mm-hmm.
would my favorite spiritual moment look like? You have to develop this nirvana that is your perfect life. In Blue Collar Cash, I write about the fact that I call it comfort, peace, and freedom. What does that triangle look like to you? And it's very important because if you don't have a picture of what you want your life to look like, it doesn't matter which way you go, how big of a leader you become. It doesn't matter any of that because, when you talk about the word entrepreneurship, okay,
Mm-hmm.
people sometimes say, "Oh, Ken, you're lucky. You're one of those entrepreneur guys." And I'm like, "Okay, here's a crayon and a piece of paper. Draw that. Draw entrepreneur."
Mm-hmm.
You can't because
Mm-hmm.
it's a concept. If you don't have something to connect that to, then you really can't picture it. So I believe that every one of us has about 9 characteristics that I think are good to make an entrepreneur. And I write about these in the book. You
Okay.
mentioned one: initiative, faith, courage, um, vision, humility, generosity. You know, all these things that you have. I believe every human being has the ability to have that characteristic within us. We just need a reason for those characteristics to come out. And that's why you see some people are entrepreneurs early in life, middle in life, late in life. But you always wonder, wow, how did that housewife or how did that person invent that thing and now they're crazy, like the My Pillow guy or whatever?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's just they saw a vision for what they wanted their life to look like, and then they created something to help them get there. And
Mm-hmm.
because ideas without a purpose are just stagnant, they just float around in your head, they never go anywhere. So the first thing I would tell anybody is grab a piece of cardboard or a poster board, get some crayons, some markers, some Sharpies, whatever, and just start drawing what your perfect life would look like
Love
in
that.
in every detail. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, down to the pets. Do you want a cat, a dog? What color? What would you name it? I mean, you have to get really deep into visualizing those things, which what I did, I started doing that when I was 12 years old, and I didn't even know what I was doing. Aluminum bat. Okay, focus on that aluminum bat. I really want that aluminum bat. Now I'm willing to do whatever it takes labor-wise to go get that thing.
Right.
And so I say you always have to start with why are you doing it? What's the purpose?
Mm-hmm.
What's the end
Yeah.
game? And I know you hear that a lot about vision boards, but I'm talking about a vision board that's as detailed as a 1,000-piece puzzle, because everyone can build the border of a puzzle if you dump the pieces on the table. But if you don't have the box, there's
Mm-hmm.
no way you're going to finish that puzzle. At least it'll take you a very long time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm saying draw the box, get your picture out there, get your puzzle box out there first, and then take one of the many ways to get there, because the power of vision is the same thing that Elon Musk uses and Stephen Jobs and Bill Gates and all those visionaries that you hear about. In fact, they're called visionaries for a reason, right?
Yes, exactly.
Start with that and then let your body go into almost autopilot to go after those
Mm-hmm.
things.
I 100% agree. And I do a lot of work with leaders or business owners of, I want you to put everything aside. No fear. There's no money worries. There's nothing aside. What do you want in 5 years? The same type of thing you're talking about is really what is that vision? And then let's come back and figure out how we're going to get there, because I agree with you. I think once we have that ultimate end game, ultimate vision, our brain changes on how we think how we're going to get there. Like you with the bat. I want that bat, and you have that bat as your end game. How am I going to get there? Your brain thinks differently, I think. It starts to be more creative. And another word that you mentioned was create, right? I think that is amazing. And being visual about it, I think, is what our brains need, because we tend to think visually as well, right?
Well, yeah, and the thing is believe me, I never went to college. I don't have any letters after my name. I've got nothing. I've bought and sold several businesses. I've built up a construction little mini empire, and I've gotten everything that I wanted out of my life. I mean, whatever I set my sights on, I was able to accomplish. And I don't credit myself. I mean, I didn't go to Harvard Business School. Okay.
Hmm.
I don't credit, I credit the power of something that I didn't even know I had, which is vision. And guess what? It's free. It doesn't require
Hmm.
hardly any training. We all possess this thing already. It's in the computer that's called our brain. And yet nobody teaches us how to do that side. I mean, you know, the last time, probably the most effective time in your lifetime, in anyone's lifetime, that they first learned how to be a visionary is when their kindergarten teacher gave them a piece of paper and some crayons and said, draw whatever you want.
Hmm.
Draw a
Yeah.
rocket, draw a horse, draw a sunset, draw whatever. And you had no lines. You just, all right, I'm going to make this and make that. Why did we stop doing that?
Hmm.
Because
Taking the
from that
creativity
point,
piece.
yeah, from that point
Yeah.
forward, all of our education was reactionary, not proactionary.
Hmm.
And that's I think the shame of it, because people go, well, I don't know how to get to the next step. You're right. But if you just sat down in a quiet place and said, this is what I see for myself, to your point, I don't care whether you call it the law of attraction or reticular activating systems or whatever you want to call it, there's a powerful force within each one of us that probably 99% of us don't ever tap. And it's just because we're not aware of it.
Hmm. Yeah, I agree. I think awareness and just taking that time really, right, to reflect on what do you want and how are you going to get there. And I do want to come back to something um, a little bit earlier, but that was around the challenges. So there's barriers that can come up. We know that vision, that bat that you want, or I'm an entrepreneur and I want to open my business and this is what it's going to be and this is the house I'm going to have. But there's challenges that come along the way. And a lot of people make that fear stop them, right? I mean, the fear of money, it's the one of the biggest ones I hear. I'll never have enough money or I'll never have enough time. And a lot of the times I make people say those statements with the word yet at the end just to keep the vision open, right? So, do you have any other tips where we can then look at the challenges as not necessarily wins, but not failures, but as a barrier to overcome? Because those things do happen. Like our thoughts that come in, our fears come in, and we need to overcome those in order to keep the vision moving forward. So, what are your thoughts or your experiences around that?
Well, the first there's two. One's called the diving board analogy, and the other one is just when you're creating these things that when you're creating a goal for yourself, you know, I hear people say, "Oh, I have a goal for this," or goals and dreams and hopes and wishes are nothing without a pathway.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. If there's not, a 52 stepping stones to getting to this place and it's crystal clear and you see it and there's nothing going to get you off this path, then you got to pick something else, because I hear a lot of people spend time in generalities. They're someday goals. They're not 2 day goals. They're this kind of hopey, wishy, dreamy thing that even I think they themselves know is never going to happen, but they just put it out there to make themselves and other people around them feel better. So
Mm-hmm.
if you don't have a precise path down to the finest, most minute detail of the thing you're after, it's going to remain in that hope land up in your head. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I advocate this so much, is to draw it out, to price it out, to get the brochure for the thing, to get it as clearly downloaded in your brain as you possibly can, so that it's not an if anymore. It's only a matter of when you're
Yes.
gonna obtain this thing. And it's real simple. In the book, I write a lot about sharing these goals with other people, and to be very careful who those people are, because
Mm-hmm.
you're either going to have a saboteur who you think loves you, or you're going to have someone who's like, I hardly even know this person, but he really wants me to succeed. I mean, he's like behind me all the way. So be careful who you pick to share a goal with. But I'll just mention this. Probably every one of us has at one point in our life attempted to jump off the high dive.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Not the regular diving board or jumping off the edge of the pool. I'm talking about the high dive that's 10, 15 feet in the air. I guarantee you, none of you have ever done that without your friends standing next to you, egging you on. Okay.
That's probably very true, actually, when I think about it. Yeah.
So I remember going up on that board myself a couple of times, walking halfway down and going, hey, I'm not doing this, man. Turn around. I walked right back down that board. And I did that a half a dozen times. But the seventh time, I had three of my buddies with me. And I got all the way out to the end of that board and I started rocking the end of that board a little bit and I was scared to death. And my buddies were like, do it, man. You got this. Just do it. And then I launched myself off that board, hit the water, and was so happy that I did.
Mm-hmm.
But for them, I don't know that I would have done it at that point. Okay. So many times when somebody knows that I'm about to do something, they'll go, hey, how you doing with that thing? That is so cool. I'm so glad you're doing it, man. Hang in there. I
Mm-hmm.
can't wait to see this. Whether it's a thing that I acquire. And again, before people think that this is a materialistic conversation, it's not. The things that you
Mm-hmm.
acquire are worthless unless you generate memories with the things you acquire. And
Yes.
then they're worthful, very
Mm-hmm.
worthwhile. So yeah, I think first off, making sure that this thing is crystal clear in your mind. And then secondly, making sure that you share that with someone who is as supportive of that as you are. Because when you do stumble, they'll be there to pick you up and keep you moving forward.
I like to call those people our cheerleaders, right? Those people who are always behind you. And in a lot of cases, not all, but in a lot of cases, that's not family or close friends.
Correct.
Right. A lot of cases, especially if you're a child of parents who maybe they grew up in a different way and they're going to put those fears or whatever in front of you. Well, you'll never have enough money for that or whatever, or, things like that. But sometimes cheerleaders are those people who, like you said, on the diving board, I remember that. My sister and I have always been cheerleaders for each other. So she would be encouraging me, I would encourage her. So having that really strong support system that's always there to help you move forward, love it. Love it. I think that's the best part of having a vision for sure.
Well, and there's something I want to add to that.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's better to use someone who you only kind of know. Okay.
Yeah.
Because if you have people, that they're like ghost supporters, you think they're supporting you, but yet they're real easy to help talk you out of it or
Mm-hmm.
help listen to you talk yourself out of it. And the one reason they do that is because they may not really want you to succeed because that only accentuates their failures,
Mm-hmm.
okay, or
Yeah.
their inadequacies. So be very careful who you pick, because if you have somebody that isn't totally vested in your future, but yet thinks that you have a really cool idea that you're going after, that might be better, because they don't you're not
Mm-hmm.
going to hurt them or not hurt them if you succeed or don't. Where
Mm-hmm.
sometimes and in your case you found someone good because you're cheerleaders for each other. But i've
Yes.
seen i've seen people that pretend to be supporters but are actually sabotaging, because man, they don't want to let you into the successful part of the world, because then you're going to leave them behind somehow. So it's something you really need to be careful of, but it's extremely important to have.
Absolutely. And that's where coaches come in too, because I love having a coach that can support me if my sister is not able to, or whatever. And to qualify it, most of my listeners know I'm an identical twin. My sister and I have had an insanely close relationship our whole lives, and we
Oh, that's
always
awesome.
push ourselves forward. So we're a little bit different than most siblings,
Yeah. Yeah.
in that way. So I do want to qualify that for the listeners that, I 100% agree. If you have somebody who you're unsure that they're going to be that cheerleader for you, or they cheer sometimes but not always, I agree, find somebody who's 100% behind whatever your vision is. Yeah, absolutely. And I love the idea that we talked about vision today, and about having the courage, and a lot of times that's where those cheerleaders can come into effect, is helping us build our courage and our confidence to take these big steps. Do you have a tip or two around how we can maybe build some of our confidence or our courage if we do have that end game, but we still are hesitant with that foot forward?
I'll give you a great example. So I have these boards in my office, and they're black glass boards, and they're
Okay.
probably 8 feet tall and about 8 feet long. And I have a lot of these crazy little neon markers, like almost like you'd see the margarita special of the day in front of your
Okay.
favorite
Yeah.
Mexican restaurant, right?
Yeah.
So we get those markers out, and we have people actually write these goals on the board, and they have to
Okay.
be absolutely precise. My name is, I'll give you an example. One of the gals in our office, she wanted to set a goal. She didn't know how to do it. So I said, come on, in my involuntary life coaching capacity, I said, come on, let's do this. And we set a goal for her to pay off her father $2,500. He borrowed money to buy a car for her, and she always felt bad that she never paid him back. So um, she was like, how can I ever pay him back? And I said, well, can you afford, I think it was $46 a week out of your paycheck? And she said, well, yeah, I can do that. I said, good. A year from today, you'll have him paid off. And she looked like I just invented penicillin. I mean, like I was,
Oh, wow.
I moved Mars, right? So we put it up on the board. Today's date, Kiera, $46, and I think it was 83 cents a week, 52 weeks. I have this in my account. My payroll clerk has automatically deducted it out of my check.
Love that.
It's in an account that I can't reach or access, and it's signed and dated, and this is the end date when I'll pay my father off. And so we have that little mini goal set on the wall, and now it's in action. And here's the thing about confidence. They say time flies, right? So they say, it gets faster as you get old. I mean, you hear all these things.
Mm-hmm.
A month went by, she didn't even know it. She had 200 some dollars in her account, right? And then another 6 weeks goes by, and people are like, hey, you're like like a third of the way to your goal, or a quarter of the way to your goal, or whatever it was. Keep going, keep going.
Yeah.
And the more stepping stones you take, she had to walk 52 stones. I mean, she had to walk
Mm-hmm.
52 paces. The more
Right.
paces you take, the more confidence you gain, because all you have to do is kind of show up and this thing's going to happen, right? So the more she did that, she was halfway through. Before she even paid him off, she started another goal to save for her wedding. And now she's paid him off. She's had her wedding. She's bought her second house already. She's bought her second
Wow.
new car.
Nice.
And it builds this almost self-reliance.
Mm-hmm.
It builds a determination factor. And it builds this vision practice where it's like you teach them how to do it one time, Tara, and then they're like, okay, thanks, Ken, get out of my way and let me go do this.
Yeah, exactly. And I love that example because money is always a huge barrier for people that they put in front of themselves. And that's a great example. And if you can't do 50, can you do five? Like work it,
Yeah.
figure out what that needs to be depending on whatever your vision is. So I absolutely love that. And the whole being clear and concise about what you want and need. Let me ask you this. Do you have a key takeaway for our audience today if they are going to create that end game, that vision that you want to share with them? If they take nothing else from our conversation today, they're taking this from you. What would that
Yeah.
be?
Yeah. I would say this. Number one, for anyone who thinks they're not in control of their own life, listen up. Okay. You and only you know what your favorite things are. And again, we can list them all: colors, transportation, food, drink.
Mm-hmm.
You and only you know what your favorite movies are, your favorite clothing is, your favorite weather is. You and only you know all of these things. Okay. So why are you listening to the world to teach you how to live your life?
Love it.
Okay. Why not say, I'm in control of my input, and therefore I'm in control of that output, and I'm in control of the quality of that output. And because of all that, if I do this right, I'll be in control of my day, my time, my schedule, and I'll be in control of my financial gain. So you got this. I mean, you really do have this. You and only you are going to build your life. No one else is going to be as much interested in you as you are. So get out there and do it. The world is yours. Listen to yourself. Stop listening to everybody else. Go make it happen.
I love that. That's a wonderful key takeaway because I tell people all the time, who can you change? Only yourself. You cannot change
100%.
anybody else. you can influence, but you can only change yourself. So live it for you. I love that. Thank you for that key takeaway. It was beautiful. If our audience wanted to learn more, excuse me, more about you or find you online, is there a way that they can do that?
Yeah, I would send them to kenrusk.com. You can see the book there. You can see I built a little mini course that, and by the way,
Awesome.
it's an 8-session course. It's $179. I donate the money to charity anyway, so it's not like a money maker for me. My road was good before I wrote the book and did all that. So, but yeah, you can find all my stuff there. I'm on all the social medias at Ken Rusk Official. But yeah, check it out. I hope you do. If you end up helping yourself out, you'll be helping someone else out in the process. So just know that. And yeah, it's all good.
I love that you donate that to charitable donation. Thank you very much for that. Of course, thank you for sharing all these amazing things today. Greatly appreciate you being on the show.
You're welcome, Tara. Thanks. Happy to be here anytime.
Thank you, of course, to our listeners today. We do hope you are taking away some tips or maybe even that key takeaway from Ken. Leaders, you do need to continually grow and develop for yourself and your teams. If you want support through our community for development of your skills, or maybe you need some leadership coaching, please visit us at amplifyingleadership.ca. That's .ca as in Canada, a Twin Life Coaching and Business Services division. Until next time, please be safe and be an amazing leader or leader to be.